back to the Secret Astrology. Makayla here. And today we're talking about the Gemini archetype, the third house, Mercury, and experiencing a third house profected year. First, before we begin and dive into this video, I just want to ask that if you're new to my channel, please give me a like and subscribe down below. It really helps spread my information to those who might need it, and it helps with the algorithm on YouTube for others to find my new YouTube channel. And for everybody who has been liking and subscribing and leaving me wonderful comments, I really appreciate your support very much, and I just want to say thank you. It's encouraging me to keep doing this and keep growing my channel. You also might be wondering what a profected year is. The reason why I'm doing these astrology immersion videos is to help everybody synthesize their charts better. So the profected year is a timing technique, a predictive technique that I like to use with my clients. I find it extremely useful, incredibly insightful, and accurate. So if you are of the ages of 2, 14, 26, 38, 50, and 62, you will be having a year that is colored mainly by your third house. Now, not everybody has Gemini on the third house cusp, so you would want to synthesize what archetype is on this third house and layer that archetype of that sign with the Gemini third house themes as well. This can get pretty confusing, but as time goes on and you start to learn astrology more, these things do start to make sense and blend for you. So if you're brand new here and you're like, what does that mean? Just stick with me through the video, learn about the Gemini archetype, learn about what a third house experience might be like for you, and you'll begin to understand how to develop your own chart and understand your own chart in your way. And that's really my point of my YouTube channel here is, yes, I do astrology readings where I can pinpoint in accuracy with your chart and help you specifically understand, but I also really encourage people to learn these things on their own so that astrology can really be a tool that each and every one of us are able to use, and a language that the collective begins to speak equally, which is right on point with the Gemini archetype, because the Gemini archetype is all about communication and connection. This is a yang energy, so it means that it wants to express itself outwardly. It wants to connect, it wants to talk, it wants to communicate with other people, where a yin energy is more receptive, it's more it's more about meditating on something or searching inwardly and kind of going into the dark time or the dark night, if you will, whereas a yang energy, you can think about it as like the sunlight. It's bright, it's shining, it's expressive. This is also a part of the mutable cross in the zodiac. So the other mutable signs are Pisces, Sagittarius, and Virgo. So like these other signs, Gemini is able to be very adaptable in its nature, which we will dive into as we get into the third house dynamics. So Mercury is the ruler of Gemini. Mercury is actually ruled by two signs in the zodiac. It's Gemini and Virgo, but in this video, we're going to talk about Gemini and Mercury. Mercury is the planet of thinking and communication. Okay, it's how we process information from our left brain and take it in and discern it through our right brain, and it helps us perceive our reality. Okay, this is a planet that really wants connection. It wants to communicate, and everybody will have a different Mercury style. Not everybody has Mercury in Gemini. You could have Mercury in Taurus, but in your third house. So it could be a slower moving type of communication that you entail, but it's still in this Gemini house. So it's still going to have these undertones of really wanting to explore different learning styles, different information. It's almost like gathering a ton of information in the Gemini style, if you will. The Mercury in Gemini, or a strong Gemini in your chart, or a strong third house, or if you're a Gemini sun, anything that's layered with this Gemini or third house archetype, you're going to have a strong affinity towards labeling and communicating different information. You want to think about Gemini in the way that they like to leave a legacy with their words. Words are very important in this archetype. And if we think back, words are so important and part of our communication and, the language that we use, even the symbols instead of, words or sign language, all right? These are all forms of sharing ideas, okay? Sharing the way that we think about things, the way that we're perceiving information. And Gemini is very light. It's very lighthearted because it's actually so busy taking its objectivity of different perceptions that it's taking in, oh, this is blue, or this fabric feels, rough. This table is really sturdy and hard, right? And it's constantly like labeling things with words, with the way that it perceives it, and then it takes all that information in and it's able to form a big picture. But if we're just sticking in that Gemini axis, it's about being able to gather as much information as it can so that it's able to form its own reality, its own structure. We get deeper into this information storing process as we look at how Gemini is connected to the other archetypes in the zodiac, okay? So there's always a polarity point to every archetype in the zodiac, and we always want to incorporate that polarity point because that's actually how we evolve in our lifetime. So the polarity point of Gemini is Sagittarius, and this is actually a very important theme right now, especially if you're watching this video today, because we are on the final weeks of the lunar nodes switching from Gemini and Sagittarius into Taurus and Scorpio. So the polarity point of Gemini Sagittarius, it's important because that is where we can expand on our beliefs and we can look at all the information that we've gathered and see if that is our truth. Okay, Sagittarius, expand and really dig in deeper into the philosophy of this information, and there's actually another really important connection with Gemini in the natural zodiac wheel. It makes an in conjunction to Scorpio. Okay, so a part of assimilating that truth, that Sagittarius truth, and evolving our beliefs, evolving our philosophy, forming our own opinions around things, has to do with incorporating that in conjunction to Scorpio, where we do a deep investigation, because an issue, with Gemini sometimes is that it's so curious by its just natural self that it can gossip. It can lead into the gossip. It can lead into so many different opinions and ideas and kind of get like really stimulated in that type of energy, but then not really thinking deeply into it. Is this my truth? Is this what I perceive as real in reality? And that's really important to do that investigation process when, say, we're having a third house transit, or we have a strong third house, or we're having a third house year, because we need to be able to investigate the underpinnings of all this light information floating around, because not everything that we see or perceive might be good for our own reality. Okay, and this is very personal. This is different for each and every one of us. So on the other side of the Gemini polarity point, so there's like Gemini down here, let's think of it like this. Sagittarius is a polarity point. We've got an in conjunction to Scorpio on one side. Once we're able to investigate that information, figure it out if it's our truth or belief, then we crystallize it with the other in conjunction to Capricorn in the zodiac, where we actually create a structure around all the information that we've gained, all the evidence that we've accumulated, the conversations that we've had, the books that we've read, the articles, all of that. Those of us with strong Gemini, strong third house planets, or whenever you're having a third house year, I think that there's going to be a big, heavy focus on the way that the ego and the spirit communicate the dynamics of the reality around themselves so that they can actually crystallize it in their human experience on Earth. All right, so during these types of years, you might undergo some type of early education, for instance, which is definitely reflected when we're 14 years old. Most of us go into, like a high school or some type of secondary learning, if you will. When we're 2 years old, we begin to formulate our words, and we begin to label things, and, bottle, we label things, right? That's my bottle, or, that's my mom, or, so these areas, this time frame in our life when we have a third house year is really important for our own development of our own curiosity and self-discovery. If you're having a third house transit, for instance, that self-discovery, that ability to communicate yourself effectively, your own truths, if you will, or being able to take the dualities in life so that you can make the connections out in the world is really important. It's a really important time frame. Gemini really wants to connect. It loves to connect with other people. It loves to share ideas. It feeds off of that energy. It's very stimulating to talk to a Gemini. My grandmother is a very strong Gemini, and she cannot keep a steady train of thought. And that's okay, because there's adversity, right, with this. But like, she will be talking about one topic, and we'll be in the middle of a discussion, and then she'll be like, hey, did you ever do this? So da 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 da. And you're like, where did that even come from? I don't know if you've ever known somebody with a strong Gemini, but they're able to literally just tail off and leave one conversation and just reroute into the next conversation, like super quick. And then you're just like, where did this even come from? It just came out of nowhere. Because Gemini is so mutable, and the archetype is really about being able to have a diversity in your perspectives, just gather as much information as you can, because the more information that you have, right, the wider of a perspective, and then you can do the discerning through, the Virgo archetype, the square to Virgo, where we toss out what's needed and leave what is, and information, and then do the in conjunction to Scorpio, the deep investigation of this knowledge, right? And then we form our truths in the polarity point in Sagittarius, and then we crystallize it in the other in conjunction with Capricorn. Okay, so this is why these videos are so important, because all these archetypes are connected within us, within our psyche, and it helps us realize how we function psychologically and innerly, alchemically, if you will, to really understand how these houses show up and how these placements show up, and how this is rooted within our own psyche as well, because we all have Gemini somewhere, and we all have a Mercury, and we all have a third house. So the scattered brain tendency is okay. It's needed. It's needed because the strength will come from learning how to communicate what your demands are and what your needs are, and sometimes we have to, go on a path, if you will, like take a left or a right turn, get a little bit off path, right? This is why my business is the Scenic Route Astrology, because it's about investigation with the third house, or the third house year, or a Gemini and Mercury, right? Investigating all this information and gathering and collecting it. This helps you form your own points of view and your own perspectives in your own reality. And then you learn how to communicate that in an effective way with other people, so that they can hear you and that they can understand you as well. Sometimes my teacher calls the Gemini having a intellectual jousting type of energy, because sometimes they're taking so much information in at once, and it can be polarizing, even that it bucks them, it bucks them back and forth, or it drives them off a current, if you will, or they just get kind of overwhelmed by all this information, because then they're like, well, what is the truth? What is the honest truth here? If you're having a third house year, or if you have a lot of third house planets, this could be colored by short journeys And I like to think of the short journeys in the third house as your daily experiences. Okay, so the way that you communicate with everybody, like you go to the coffee shop every day, or you go to work every day, or you're visiting, your friends or whatever, we'll have this communication, this undertone with everybody in our day-to-day life where we're traveling. Also, the third house has to do with transportation because it has to do with Mercury, which is a ruler of transportation. Hermes in mythological Greco-Roman times was the god that could travel into both the upper and lower worlds and move freely as he would. So we do have this connection with transportation, but we also have a connection with trading and commerce and things like that because of the ability to communicate with these dynamics. You can also be dealing with your siblings if you have them, or close friends, like really close friends that are like your siblings when you're having a third house transit or a third house profected year. Or if you have some heavy placements in your third house, there might be a emphasis on siblings and how they're showing up for you in your early life and the way that you've learned to develop your own communication needs and how that's played out for you, or just overall, like, you might have some lifelong sibling dynamics that come up. This is also a process of like learning and then trying and then repeating and then maybe relearning, and then going on a short travel journey and then relearning from there. There's definitely this emphasis of just redoing, relearning, in any type of way. You might even go back to school. I wouldn't say that college could fall in the third house year, although it could if it was maybe a prereq to your doctorate degree, for instance. But I would definitely put in maybe learning a new language, or that would be more ninth house too, but they could fall in the same axis. It just depends what's going on in your chart. Okay. But it's definitely about, trying something new, starting an education, early on education, writing and communicating your thoughts and ideas. Maybe you begin a book during this house, this profected year, and then it gets published once you reach your ninth house year, for instance. I'm actually a living example of that. This house, or a lot of planets in this house, strong placements with Gemini, is also about learning how to use your inner cleverness, okay? Because the cleverness contains our thinking and our reasoning capabilities. So when you're having like a strong third house transit or energy or anything like that, the nervous system might be stimulated a bit more because you're thinking and you're on the go and you're trying to be clever on how to experience all the angles of life, okay? Because life isn't linear and it's going to throw you off. So it's really learning during these years to be adaptable to change as well, and using your mental capability and your mental power to be adaptable in life, to make the most out of a situation, and to change if you need to change your perspective, to change your reality, to change the way that somebody else maybe thinks about something. And so this archetype, all the archetypes are important, but this archetype is very important for us so that we can gather the information that ultimately leads to the structure of our reality, which also gives us a sense of security. So when we can put a label on something, we feel like we've given it structure in our reality. We feel like we can know it, we can discern it, we have a place to put it, or a way to intellectualize it or think about it and process it. And that really leads us to an ability to have emotional security as well. So anyway, thank you so much, everybody, for watching my video. Again, please like and subscribe. If you'd like to book a reading with me, you can reach out to me on my website, www.astroroots.com, or if you'd like to just direct message me on my Instagram, it's the Scenic Route Astrology on IG. And with that being said, you guys have unlimited potential, my cosmic warriors. I love you very much. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will be back more for these archetypal videos. Bye.